I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am. The day I discovered my world was built on lies started like any other Tuesday morning. I was 8 months pregnant, arranging tiny onesies in the nursery while humming a lullaby my mother used to sing. My swollen feet were killing me, but I couldn't help myself. Everything had to be perfect for our baby boy. That's when I got the call from Mrs. Peterson, our elderly neighbor. "Penelope, dear, there are some men removing furniture from your house. Is everything all right?" Her concerned voice made my heart skip a beat. I wasn't expecting any deliveries or removals. I waddled as fast as I could to our bedroom, my hands trembling as I opened the closet door. Empty. Not a single piece of the designer clothing collection I'd carefully curated over years remained. My jewelry box, gone. The antique vanity my grandmother left me, vanished. The nursery was the only room untouched, probably because everything in it was clearly for the baby. Then I saw it. A note on the kitchen counter, written in Mark's hasty scrawl. "Having this baby was your choice. I've moved on with Jessica. Don't try to find me. Jessica." My husband's 24-year-old assistant, the one he swore was just a colleague, when I voiced my concerns months ago. I sank to the floor, my hands cradling my belly as our son kicked furiously inside me, as if he could sense my distress. The room spun around me as 13 years of marriage crumbled into dust. Mark and I had met in college, built our lives together, planned this pregnancy for years. He'd held my hand through 2 miscarriages, wiped my tears, promised we'd keep trying. Or at least, that's what I thought had happened. The following days were a blur of police reports, locksmith visits, and tearful calls to my family. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. Mark hadn't just left me, he'd systematically planned his escape. He'd gradually sold my belongings over the past months, funneling the money into a separate account. My clothes, jewelry, even family heirlooms, all gone. The detective assigned to my case said it was one of the most calculated abandonments he'd seen. But the real gut punch came when I discovered Mark had maxed out our joint credit cards and emptied our savings account. The nest egg we'd built together, meant to provide for our child's future, had vanished along with him. The only money left was in my personal account, which I'd maintained since starting my job as a high school English teacher. My sister Kate flew in from Boston to help me pick up the pieces. "You need to think about the baby now," she insisted, helping me sort through what remained. "Stress isn't good for either of you." She was right, of course. But how could I not stress? I was about to become a single mother, betrayed and abandoned by the man I thought would be by my side forever. That night, as I lay in our half-empty bedroom, I felt something shift inside me. Beyond the hurt, beyond the betrayal, a fierce determination began to take root. Mark had taken my possessions, but he couldn't take my dignity or my strength. I placed both hands on my belly, feeling my son's movements. "It's just you and me now, little one," I whispered. "But we're going to be okay. Better than okay." I had no idea then how right those words would prove to be, or that Mark's betrayal would ultimately lead me to discover a strength I never knew I possessed. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I refused to let his actions define my story or my child's future. As I drifted off to sleep that night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I'm so sorry," it read. "There's something you need to know about Mark. Can we meet?" It was from Jessica, and what she had to tell me would change everything I thought I knew about my husband's betrayal. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would test every fiber of my being, but also lead me to an unexpected destiny that would make all the pain worthwhile. The question was I ready to hear what Jessica had to say? And more importantly, was I prepared for the truth about the man I had loved for 13 years? I met Jessica at a quiet cafe across town the next morning. My hands shook as I maneuvered my pregnant body into the booth, unsure whether I wanted to slap her or break down crying. She looked nothing like the confident assistant I remembered from office parties. Her mascara was smeared, dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her designer clothes hung loosely on her frame. "He played us both," she blurted out before I could speak. "Mark. He's not who either of us thought he was." She pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. "I found these while we were planning to leave together. That's when I realized I wasn't his first. And you weren't his only wife. My world tilted on its axis as I opened the envelope. Inside were documents revealing a devastating truth. Mark had 2 other families. One in Seattle with a wife and 2 children, another in Chicago with a pregnant wife due just 3 months after me. Each family believed he was a traveling businessman, explaining his frequent absences. Each of us had our own version of Mark, complete with separate bank accounts, social circles, and elaborate lies. He's been doing this for years, Jessica continued, her voice breaking. When I confronted him about it, he laughed, said it was all a game, that he enjoyed the challenge of maintaining multiple lives. He never intended to stay with me either. I was just his latest conquest, another piece in his twisted puzzle. I felt bile rising in my throat. The man I'd loved, the father of my unborn child, was a stranger. A con artist who had orchestrated an intricate web of deception spanning years and multiple states. The realization that I wasn't special, that our entire relationship had been one long con, hit me like a physical blow. "There's more," Jessica whispered, pulling out her phone. "He's done this before, in other cities. Different names, different stories, but always the same pattern. He targets successful women, builds a life with them, then disappears with everything he can take. Some of his previous wives, they never recovered, not just financially, but emotionally." She showed me social media posts and news articles about similar cases across the country. Different names, same modus operandi. Mark, or whatever his real name was, had perfected his scheme over years. He was a chameleon, adapting his personality to whatever his target desired most. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Because I'm pregnant too," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "And because he's done this to enough women. It needs to stop. The police in individual cities haven't connected the dots yet, but together, with all of us coming forward." She trailed off, leaving the possibility hanging in the air. I sat there, processing everything. The magnitude of Mark's deception was staggering. This wasn't just about him leaving me for a younger woman. It was about a calculated years-long scheme that had destroyed multiple lives. And now, Jessica and I were both carrying the children of a man we never really knew. As I drove home, my mind raced with possibilities. Part of me wanted to curl up and disappear, to protect myself and my unborn child from the shame and scandal that would surely follow if this became public. But another part of me, a stronger part, knew that remaining silent would only allow Mark to continue his pattern of destruction. That evening, as I sat in my half-empty house, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a number from Seattle. "Hello?" a woman's voice said, trembling slightly. "My name is Rachel Anderson. Jessica gave me your number. I think we need to talk about Mark Stevens, or David Anderson, as I knew him." I took a deep breath, my hand instinctively moving to protect my belly. Something told me this conversation would change everything. The question was I ready to join forces with Mark's other victims and expose his elaborate scheme? And more importantly, was I prepared for the storm that would follow? The baby kicked, as if answering for me. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about justice or revenge. It was about protecting other women from falling victim to Mark's manipulations. It was about showing my son that his mother was strong enough to stand up and fight back. As I reached for my laptop to start documenting everything, another message popped up on my phone. This one made my blood run cold. It was from Mark. "I know you've been talking to the others. Don't do anything stupid, Penelope. Remember, you're about to be a single mother. Think about what's best for our child." Mark's threat lingered in my mind as I paced my living room that night, but something had changed inside me. The fear was still there, but it was overshadowed by anger, not just for myself, but for every woman he had manipulated and betrayed. Rachel's call had lasted 3 hours, and with each revelation, my resolve strengthened. The next morning, I called in sick to work and started what would become the most important project of my life. My dining room transformed into a command center, with my laptop, notebooks, and a detailed timeline of Mark's activities at its heart. Rachel and Jessica joined via video call, and soon we were joined by Claire from Chicago, Mark's third current wife. He told me he was an international business consultant, Claire shared, her voice bitter. Said the traveling was part of the job. I even threw him a birthday party last month, February 15th. February 15th? Rachel interrupted. His birthday is in September. At least, that's what he told me. I felt a chill run down my spine. He celebrated his birthday with me in June. Each new lie we uncovered was another piece of the puzzle, revealing the true scope of his deception. Over the next few weeks, as my due date approached, we meticulously documented everything. Bank statements, photographs, travel records, gift receipts, anything that could prove the extent of his fraud. We created a secure online drive where we stored copies of everything, protecting ourselves from any attempts he might make to silence us. But it wasn't just about building a legal case. Something beautiful and unexpected emerged from our shared trauma. We became each other's support system, sharing not just evidence, but also our fears, hopes, and dreams for our children. Claire and I exchanged pregnancy tips, while Rachel offered advice from her experience with her 2 young ones. Jessica, the youngest of us, brought a fierce determination to expose Mark's crimes that inspired us all. "We're not his victims anymore," Rachel declared during one of our late-night calls. "We're survivors, and we're going to make sure he never does this to anyone else." The threat of Mark's message hung over me, but I refused to let it paralyze me. Instead, I channeled my energy into preparing for my baby's arrival while working with the others to build our case. We contacted private investigators, lawyers, and even a journalist who specialized in investigating complex fraud cases. Then came the day that changed everything. I was organizing evidence when I received a call from an unknown number. It was a woman named Patricia from Florida. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I saw your post in the support group for financial fraud victims," she said. "The pattern you described. It happened to me too, 15 years ago. His name was different, but the photos you shared, that's him. He took everything, including my daughter's college fund. I've never told anyone the full story before. Patricia wasn't just another victim. She was the missing link we needed. She had documentation from before Mark had perfected his scheme, including his real name and background. More importantly, she had never signed the settlement agreement he had pressured her into, meaning she could legally share everything. As I listened to Patricia's story, my baby kicked strongly, as if understanding the significance of this moment. I placed my hand on my belly, making a silent promise not only to my child, but to every woman Mark had hurt and every woman he might target in the future. That night, I received another message from Mark. "Final warning, Penelope. Back off now, or you'll regret it. I know people who can make your life very difficult." I stared at the message, my hand protectively cradling my belly, and did something that surprised even me. I laughed. The man who had once held such power over my life now seemed pathetic, a coward hiding behind threats and lies. I took a screenshot of his message and added it to our evidence folder. Then I typed a reply that would change the course of everything. "Dear Mark, or whatever your real name is, I'm not afraid of you anymore. In fact, I almost feel sorry for you. You have no idea what's coming." As I hit send, my water broke. The irony wasn't lost on me. Going into labor right after standing up to Mark. My sister Kate made it to the hospital in record time, gripping my hand through each contraction while coordinating with Rachel, Claire, and Jessica through our group chat. They stayed connected throughout my entire labor, sending messages of support and strength. 26 hours later, I held my son for the first time. Looking into his perfect face, I felt no trace of his father in him. Instead, I saw pure possibility, a fresh start, a reason to fight harder than ever. I named him Leo, like the lion, symbol of courage and strength. As I cradled him in my arms, my phone lit up with a notification. Our lawyer had filed the first round of documents. The weeks following Leo's birth passed in a blur of midnight feedings and legal consultations. Patricia's evidence proved invaluable. She had kept everything, including letters where Mark had accidentally revealed details about his background. Our investigation uncovered his real identity, Dylan Marcus Whitman, born in a small town in Idaho, with a history of small-time cons dating back to his college years. We've found 6 more victims, our lawyer announced during a video conference when Leo was 3 weeks old. I balanced him against my shoulder while listening to the update. Each case individually might seem like a relationship gone wrong, but together they show a clear pattern of systematic fraud. The evidence was damning. Mark, Dylan, had stolen over $2 million from women across the country over the past 17 years. He'd used different names, different stories, but always the same methodology: gain trust, build a life, then disappear with everything he could take. Then came the morning I'll never forget. Leo was 2 months old, peacefully sleeping in his bassinet beside my desk where I was reviewing court documents. The doorbell rang. Standing there was a woman I'd never seen before, probably in her 60s, clutching a worn leather briefcase. "My name is Sadie Whitman," she said, her voice steady but her eyes full of pain. "Dylan is my son. I've spent years trying to track him down, to stop him. When I saw the legal notices, I had to come. I have something you need to see." Sadie had been collecting evidence about her son's activities for over a decade. She'd tried reporting him to authorities multiple times, but without cooperation from his victims, many too ashamed to come forward, nothing had stuck. She'd kept meticulous records of every scam, every alias, every victim she could trace. "I failed as a mother," she whispered, watching Leo sleep. "I couldn't stop him, but maybe I can help end this now." That afternoon, we held an emergency video conference with all the women involved in the case. Sadie shared everything, including evidence of offshore accounts where Mark had been hiding the money. It was the breakthrough we needed. But Mark had one last card to play. That evening, I received a delivery, divorce papers along with a settlement offer. In exchange for dropping all charges and signing a non-disclosure agreement, he would provide generous child support and return some of my stolen property. I was nursing Leo when I read the documents. He looked up at me with his innocent eyes, completely unaware of the weight of the moment. The old Penelope might have been tempted by the offer, might have chosen the easier path of quiet resolution. Instead, I took a photo of the papers and sent it to our group chat with a single message. "Look what someone's getting desperate." Rachel replied first. He sent me the same thing. Claire. "Me too." Jessica. "Just got mine." We had him cornered, and he knew it. But none of us expected what happened next. That night, as I put Leo to bed, my security system alerted me to movement in the backyard. Someone was trying to break in through the kitchen door. My heart pounding, I grabbed Leo from his crib and locked ourselves in the master bathroom, calling 911 with trembling fingers. The operator assured me police were 3 minutes away. Those 3 minutes felt like hours as I heard footsteps moving through my house. Then a familiar voice. "Penelope, I know you're here. We need to talk." It was Mark. My blood ran cold, not from fear, but from rage. How dare he come here, threaten my home, my baby? The bathroom had a small window facing the front yard. If necessary, I could escape through it. But something in me refused to run. "The police are coming," I called out, my voice stronger than I expected. "Leave now, Mark." Or should I say Dylan? The footsteps stopped. I heard him curse under his breath. Then, "You don't understand what you're doing. Those other women? They're lying. I can explain everything." Leo stirred in my arms but didn't wake. I held him closer, drawing strength from his peaceful presence. "The only liar here is you, Dylan Marcus Whitman from Idaho. Your mother sends her regards, by the way." The sound of breaking glass from somewhere in the house made me jump. Then came the blessed sound of police sirens. Through the window, I saw red and blue lights flooding my front yard. "This isn't over!" Mark shouted, his footsteps retreating rapidly. By the time police entered, he was gone, leaving behind a dropped burner phone and a briefcase full of documents. Documents that would prove crucial to our case. The next morning, my house became a hub of activity. Police photographers documented everything, while our lawyer arrived with a digital forensics expert to examine the phone. Kate took Leo to her house for safety, though every fiber of my being ached to keep him close. "He's unraveling," Detective Evans observed, reviewing the security footage. "This kind of desperate behavior, it's actually good for your case. Shows consciousness of guilt." The documents in the briefcase revealed something unexpected. Mark had been planning to flee the country. There were printouts of property listings in non-extradition countries, fake passports, and wire transfer records. He'd been preparing his escape route even as he sent us those settlement offers. That afternoon, we held an emergency video conference with all the women involved. Rachel's voice was tense. He tried to break into my house too, 2 hours after Penelope's. My security system scared him off. Claire and Jessica had similar stories. Mark had attempted to intimidate each of us that night, but his plan had backfired spectacularly. His actions had given the police probable cause for a warrant, and within hours, they had tracked his recent movements through credit card transactions and traffic cameras. Sadie, his mother, provided the final piece of the puzzle. "There's a cabin," she said quietly, "in the mountains near where he grew up. It was his grandfather's. He always said it would be his bolt hole if things went wrong." As she spoke, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You've ruined everything. Hope you're happy with yourself. Kiss the baby goodbye." I showed the message to Detective Evans. Within minutes, she was on the phone with the Idaho State Police. The net was closing in, but Mark's threat against Leo sent ice through my veins. Was he really desperate enough to harm a baby? That night, as I sat in Kate's guest room watching Leo sleep, my phone lit up with urgent messages from our group chat. Claire's security cameras had captured someone trying to access her garage. But this time, something was different. The grainy footage showed not one person, but two: Mark and a woman none of us recognized. What we didn't know then was that this mystery woman would change everything about our understanding of Mark's schemes. The mystery woman contacted me first. Her name was Vanessa Taylor, a former bank employee who had worked with Mark 15 years ago. She wasn't another victim. She was his former accomplice, and she had come to make things right. "I helped him set up the offshore accounts," she explained during our meeting at the police station. "I was young, naive, and he was persuasive. I didn't realize at first what he was doing with them. When I figured it out, he threatened to implicate me if I ever talked." Vanessa had kept detailed records of every transaction, every account, every dollar Mark had stolen. She'd been watching him from afar for years, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment to come forward. When she saw our case building, she knew it was time. "He's got millions hidden away," she revealed, spreading documents across the detective's desk. "Not just what he stole from you all. He's been running other schemes too. Real estate fraud, investment scams. The wives were just one part of it." The evidence she provided was damning. Bank statements, transfer records, emails, a complete paper trail of Mark's criminal empire. But more shocking was what she revealed about his current plans. "He's desperate now," Vanessa warned. "He tried to access the emergency funds I helped him hide, but I've been quietly moving them, leaving just enough of a trail to keep him thinking they're still there. He's running out of options, and that makes him dangerous." That night, as I nursed Leo, my phone rang. It was Sadie, Mark's mother, her voice urgent. "He's here," she whispered, "at the cabin. But something's wrong. He's not alone." The police moved fast, but when they reached the cabin, they found something unexpected. Mark was there, but he wasn't calling the shots anymore. His new partner, a man named Victor Reeves, had turned on him. They'd been running schemes together for years, and now Victor was demanding his share of everything. The standoff at the cabin lasted hours. Through it all, I stayed on the phone with Sadie, listening to her pain as her son's entire criminal life unraveled. Finally, just before dawn, it ended. Both men were arrested, and the full scope of their operations began to emerge. But the real shock came during the interrogation. Victor revealed that Mark had another family we hadn't known about, in Australia. A wife and 3 children who had no idea who he really was. The scale of his deception was even greater than we'd imagined. As I processed this news, holding Leo close, my phone buzzed with a message from the prison where Mark was being held. "I need to see my son," it read. "Please, Penelope. One last time before everything comes out in court." I stared at the message for a long time, remembering the man I thought I'd married, the father I'd hoped Leo would have. Then I thought of all the other children, in Seattle, Chicago, Australia. whose lives he'd disrupted. The answer was clear. "Your son already has everything he needs," I replied. "Me." That night, as I put Leo to bed, I got an unexpected call from Rachel in Seattle. "Turn on the news," she said. "They found something at Victor's house, something big." The discovery at Victor's house changed everything. Hidden in a false wall, investigators found dozens of journals, Mark's personal records spanning 20 years. They detailed every scheme, every victim, every dollar stolen. But more disturbing were his psychological profiles of each target, including all of us. "He studied me for months before approaching me," Claire said during our emergency video call. "The journal entry about me. He knew about my miscarriage before we even met. He planned to use that pain to manipulate me." The journals revealed Mark's methodical approach. He didn't just con women, he broke them systematically, making each of us dependent on him emotionally and financially before vanishing. It was all calculated, down to the timing of his disappearances. Sadie could barely speak as she read her son's writings. "He calls it the perfect exit," she shared, her voice breaking. "Waiting until a woman is most vulnerable, during pregnancy or after a personal loss, before taking everything." But Victor's house held one more revelation. In his basement office, investigators found evidence of an even larger operation. Mark and Victor weren't just conning individuals, they were running a sophisticated network of fraud schemes targeting women across multiple countries. The Australian connection proved crucial. Mark's wife there, Diana, was actually an unwitting pawn in their international money laundering operation. When the authorities contacted her, she provided access to financial records that exposed the full scope of their crimes. As the evidence mounted, I received an unexpected visitor at my door, Victor's ex-wife, Margaret. "I've been following your case," she said, clutching a leather portfolio. "There's something you need to see about the money trail." Margaret had been an accountant before her marriage to Victor. Even after their divorce, she had kept tracking suspicious transactions linked to her ex-husband. Her records filled in the final pieces of the puzzle, revealing how Mark and Victor had hidden their stolen millions. That evening, as I fed Leo, my phone lit up with a news alert. The story had broken internationally. Women from across the globe were coming forward with similar stories about Mark and Victor. The number of victims was staggering. Then came the message that made my blood run cold. It was from an unknown number. The journals aren't telling the whole story. Mark had a partner before Victor, and I know where he hid the real money. "Meet me tomorrow at noon. Come alone." The message included an attachment, a photo of Mark from 20 years ago, standing next to a man I recognized from my own past, a man I thought I'd never see again. The man in the photo was my Uncle Robert, the same uncle who had disappeared 12 years ago after allegedly embezzling from his company. The same uncle whose actions had torn my family apart and driven my mother into depression. Now I understood. He hadn't acted alone. I showed the photo to Detective Evans before agreeing to the meeting. She arranged for undercover officers to be present, disguised as cafe patrons. At noon sharp, a woman in her 50s sat down across from me. She introduced herself as Catherine Wells, Robert's former secretary. "Your uncle didn't steal that money," she said quietly. "Mark framed him. I've been gathering evidence for years, waiting for the right moment to come forward. When I saw your case in the news, I knew it was time." Catherine revealed how Mark had methodically set up Robert, using his position at the company to orchestrate the perfect frame job. The embezzlement scheme had been Mark's testing ground, where he perfected the techniques he would later use on his wives. "Robert discovered what Mark was doing," Catherine explained. "The night before he disappeared, he left this with me." She pulled out a USB drive. "He said if anything happened to him, I should keep it safe until I found someone he could trust. He meant you, Penelope." The drive contained encrypted files detailing Mark's earliest schemes, including evidence that could exonerate Robert. But more importantly, it revealed the location of Mark's original stash, millions hidden away before he even met Victor. As Catherine spoke, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from Sadie. Mark tried to commit suicide in prison. He left a confession. The confession was devastating. Mark admitted to orchestrating Robert's disappearance, revealing that my uncle had been his first major victim. He'd chosen me years later not by chance, but because of my connection to Robert. It had all been part of his twisted game. But Mark's confession held one more shock. Robert wasn't dead as we'd all assumed. He was alive, living under a false identity in South America, where Mark had forced him to flee by threatening our family. That night, as I held Leo, watching him sleep peacefully, my phone lit up with a video call from an unknown number. When I answered, I saw a face I hadn't seen in 12 years. Older, grayer, but unmistakably my Uncle Robert. "I'm so sorry, Penelope," he said, tears in his eyes. "I never wanted any of this to touch you, but now that Mark's been caught, I can finally come home and make things right." As we talked, another message came through, from Diana in Australia. Her investigations had uncovered something crucial about Mark's earliest crimes, something that would change everything we thought we knew about his motivation. Diana's discovery was the missing piece we needed. In Mark's earliest records, she found letters to his first victim, his college girlfriend, Amy. She had died in what was ruled a suicide after discovering his initial fraudulent schemes. Her death wasn't just another tragedy in Mark's wake, it was his origin story. The guilt had broken something in him, turning him into the calculating predator he became. 6 months after Mark's arrest, I sat in a crowded courtroom, Leo sleeping peacefully in his carrier beside me. Rachel, Claire, Jessica, and women from across the globe filled the benches. Sadie sat in the back, her face a mask of grief and determination. My Uncle Robert, finally cleared of all charges, held my hand as the judge delivered the sentence. Mark received 30 years. Victor got 25. The court ordered full restitution to all victims, funded by the millions Catherine helped us recover. But the real victory wasn't the sentence. It was the strength we'd found in each other. We created a foundation, funded by the recovered money, dedicated to helping victims of financial fraud and domestic deception. Rachel ran support groups. Claire developed educational programs. Jessica managed our social media presence, sharing stories of survival and recovery. I wrote a book, not just about Mark's crimes, but about the power of women standing together. Uncle Robert used his experience to help law enforcement identify similar schemes, preventing countless others from falling victim to fraudsters like Mark. Sadie joined our foundation, turning her pain into purpose by counseling parents of white-collar criminals. 1 year after Mark's sentencing, I received a letter from him in prison. "I'm sorry," he wrote, "not just for what I did, but for who I became. You were stronger than I ever was." I didn't respond. Instead, I took Leo to the park, watching him take his first wobbly steps across the grass. My phone buzzed with our daily group chat. Rachel's daughter had lost her first tooth. Claire's pregnancy was progressing well. Jessica had started law school to help other fraud victims. That evening, as I put Leo to bed, I looked around his room. No longer the nursery Mark had left untouched, but a space filled with love and new memories. On the wall hung a photo of our extended family, not bound by blood or marriage, but by something stronger: resilience, truth, and the courage to start again. My sister Kate says Leo has my smile, my determination. He'll grow up surrounded by strong women who turned tragedy into triumph. Knowing that his mother didn't just survive, she helped create a movement that protected countless others. Sometimes when I look at old photos of my life with Mark, it feels like looking at a stranger's memories. The woman I was then couldn't imagine the strength she possessed. But that's the thing about strength. Sometimes it takes losing everything to discover just how much you have. Last week, I received an invitation to speak at an international conference on financial fraud prevention. As I prepared my presentation, Leo played with his blocks, building towers and knocking them down, each time more determined to build them higher. I watched him, thinking how fitting it was. That's exactly what we did. We took the pieces of our broken lives and built something stronger, higher, better. Mark's betrayal was meant to destroy me. Instead, it led me to my true destiny, not as a victim, but as a warrior, a protector, a voice for change. Our foundation has now helped over 1,000 women recover from similar situations, and we're just getting started. Tonight, as I write this, Leo sleeps peacefully in his room. Our house is full again, not with the material things Mark stole, but with something far more valuable: purpose, community, and the unshakable knowledge that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead you to become the person you were always meant to be. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and continue our work. Because that's what warriors do. We keep fighting, not just for ourselves, but for every woman who needs to know that she's not alone, that she's stronger than she knows, and that her story isn't over just because someone tried to write her ending. This isn't the life I planned, but it's the life I was meant to have, and I wouldn't change it for anything.